In terms of the public's perception of risk, things that might be true because I read them on the internet, Neil deGrasse Tyson tweeted today, the causes of death worldwide in March 2011 is starvation, 3 million.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, big fan of his. We've needed somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson ever since Carl Sagan died. But yeah, what's the first one on the list? Starvation.
Okay, so starvation, 3 million, malaria, 250,000, car crashes, 100,000, quakes and tsunamis, 28,000. Body count on nuclear power deaths is what? Low?
Civilian nuclear power in the United States hasn't killed anyone. Body count would be 0.
So when 3 Mile Island releases some radiation, I mean, you'd want to incorporate statistical likelihood of someone getting thyroid cancer and
no, because
in the number?
Even the statistical likelihood is a theory that is not based on facts. It's called the linear no threshold hypothesis, and it's not based on epidemiological data. It's based on the assumption that radiation will harm you at whatever degree to whatever degree you're exposed.
I thought that was established. Actually,
No,
I thought there was.
It's established.
I've heard that there's
it's
no such
established
thing as
in
safe
policy.
radiation.
That's where that no such thing as safe radiation. That comes from the linear no threshold hypothesis. It is established in regulation, yet there is no epidemiological data to back that up. There is no study that says we have taken a cohort of people and we've exposed them to 1% more radiation than normally would get, and we've seen 1% more cancer. In fact, there are many places in the world where background levels of radiation are substantially higher. If the linear no threshold hypothesis was in fact true, or even approaching truth, you would see statistically significantly higher levels of cancer in those populations, those cohorts. But what happens? Not only is there not higher levels of cancer, there are actually suppressed levels of cancer, which leads to a theory that does have substantiation in the data, and that's called hormesis. Hormesis is simply a little bit is good for you, and radiation appears to be one of these things where a little bit more is actually good for you and suppresses your development of cancer. You might say, well, why would a little bit of radiation be good for me? When you go and exercise, you damage your muscles, but your body rebuilds them and rebuilds them stronger than they were before. Radiation stimulates cellular damage, but it also stimulates the body's repair mechanisms. If hormesis became policy instead of linear no threshold, we would have an incredibly different approach to radiation. Okay. In fact, in some ways, we actually do accept hormesis when it comes to natural radiation, but we don't accept it when it comes to artificial radiation. The reality is there's no difference between the two.
We have a 3-year environmental assessment process in Canada to build a nuclear reactor, and we have a weekend to produce a coal plant.
Coal and gas plants are able to release radioactive materials to the environment in much greater amounts than a nuclear plant would ever possibly be allowed to, because they are considered what's called NORM, naturally occurring radioactive materials. For instance, when you go frack a shale and you pull gas out, a lot of radon comes out with that too. You burn the gas, that radon's being released. Nobody counts that radon against the gas. If they did, the Regulatory Commission would shut the gas plant down. Same with coal. Coal contains small amounts of uranium and thorium. They go up the stack, they're dispersed.
Why they can't tell you how much waste they produce.
Yeah, and they've spent a lot of money to make sure that regulatory agencies do not regulate NORM for a coal or a gas plant the way they regulate radioactive emissions from a nuclear plant. If they did, we would be shutting down all our coal and gas plants based on radioactivity alone. Even if linear no threshold was actually true, let's say for a minute it was true, this was the reality of the world, you would still be much better off establishing an entire world powered by nuclear power. And the reason why is because of the radioactive releases from coal. You would want to shut down coal so you could have nuclear, because coal releases more radiation than nuclear by several orders of magnitude. The notion there's no safe amount of radiation, that is not a substantiated or even an accurate statement. It is probably actually utterly inaccurate, but it is commonly found as the basis of public policy around the world.
That was my understanding until just now. There was no safe level of radiation. 2
great books on this, Terrestrial Energy by Bill Tucker and The Power to Save the World by Gwyneth Cravens, go into this topic extensively. Until this notion of low exposure levels of radiation is addressed and put to bed, it will forever dog the nuclear industry. A sunburn is radiation damage. That's radiation burn. We don't call it that, but that's what it is. Your body is responding, trying to prevent further radiation damage, ionizing radiation to your skin and your cells, and it's generating melanin, which is a natural shielding mechanism.